to conduct a counter smear campaign. When someone is running around your office, neighborhood, or in your family slandering you, a lot of people will say that there's nothing you can do about it and that you should just go home, ignore it, listen to some soft music, and sign up for a basket weaving class. Ignoring the smear campaign is not the only solution. Unique situations require unique solutions. I think that the fastest way to level up dominance and to take control of what's happening to you when someone is conducting a smear campaign against you is to reframe what's happening. It's to present a counter narrative. It's to define the terms of the engagement. This is, in my opinion, a great way to shut down a smear campaign against you. I want to point out a flaw in the argument that ignoring a smear campaign is the best and only option. When you've been accused of something that you have not done, you are innocent. If you have hard evidence to prove that the other person is lying and that you haven't done what they have accused you of, then present the evidence, hands down, every time. I personally think you show everyone the evidence to prove your innocence. You post it on Facebook. You send a copy of the evidence to everyone you know. I think that that is a great way to clear your name and to show that the other person is straight up lying. The problem that a lot of targets have is that often we cannot prove our innocence. And if you cannot prove that you're innocent, often going on defensive is just as much an admission of guilt as not saying anything at all. And sometimes announcing your innocence is even worse than not saying anything at all. And as you're defending yourself, all that's happening is that these ideas are solidifying in the other person's mind. And you really, really want to avoid that if possible, because it can make the rumor and the lie grow even faster. Because what they're doing is they are casting a shadow of a doubt about your character. It's their word against your word. So in that situation, not saying anything sometimes, in my opinion, is often better than trying to prove your innocence without evidence. Because if you don't have evidence, then trying to prove your innocence is a complete waste of time. So let's get back to our options. I'm going to give you an idea of something you could do, a way to handle a situation like this. The first thing is to reframe the questioning. So I'm going to give an example. You're in an office situation and your coworker Tina has told everyone that you are a thief and that you have been stealing office supplies out of the office supply room for months. Well, she doesn't have any evidence to show that you've been doing it. You don't have any evidence to prove that you haven't been doing it. So it's her word against yours. So when Susan, your coworker, approaches you and says, Tina has been smearing you and slandering you, well, in my opinion, the worst thing a target can do is go on the defensive. The worst thing a target can do is to immediately start saying, oh my gosh, I'm innocent, I don't steal, I've never stolen anything in my life, you've got to believe me, I am not a bad person, I'm a good person. Okay, this is often worse than saying nothing at all. If you only have a choice of going on the defensive or just staying silent and not saying anything, I personally think that it's often better not to say anything at all and just to say, I don't feel comfortable discussing this, or to say, I will not justify that with a response, and walk away. That's one way you can deal with it. Again, I'm not telling anyone what to do, because what works for one person doesn't work for another. So if you feel comfortable just going on the defensive and going hard and looking them in the eye and saying, I am innocent, I did not do that, then go ahead. Every situation is unique. But in a lot of situations, that can be even worse, going on the defensive. And I'll explain why I think that's the case. It's because when you're talking to the other person or a group of people and you start saying, I'm innocent, I do not steal, actually what's happening is the person listening, they are now visualizing you in the office supply room stealing, even though you are saying, I don't do that. And that's why often it is even worse to go into detail about your innocence. And the fact is that often declaring your innocence is equal to not saying anything at all. And in some cases, it's even worse, as I just explained. So I'm going to give an option, which is that when the person approaches you, when Susan walks up and says, Tina is telling everyone that you steal office supplies, you ignore that and you engage in a counter smear campaign. So you do not acknowledge or address the accusation against you. Instead, you immediately start smearing Tina. And what comes out of your mouth will be just negative stuff about Tina. And you'll say, oh, Tina is insane. Tina is mentally ill. There is something wrong with Tina. I'm really worried about Tina. I hope that she is getting help. Tina is a pathological liar. Tina is not a good person. Okay, you get what I'm saying. So you're not addressing the fact that you've been accused of stealing office supplies. You're just going straight into a counter smear campaign. Because when you do this, you are reframing the questions being asked. You are transitioning the negative emotional attention from yourself onto the abuser. That's the goal. Because what the target will do is, the target is now presenting a counter narrative. The target is now defining the terms of engagement. So if anything, the target is now, it is a level playing field. This is an option because it is sending a message to Tina that, hey, you want to play ball? I'll play ball. You want to smear me? I'm going to smear you. There's a good chance that this will shut it down. It might not, but it's worth a try. And at the end of the day, what's changed? Let's say it doesn't work and no one believes you and everyone believes Tina and thinks that you steal office supplies. Well, at least you tried something, and you never know. I just really want people to see that we do have options. There are alternative solutions to being smeared. We can take action, and this is one way to do it. I personally do not feel any guilt about engaging in a counter smear campaign, because remember the timeline of events. You, the target, you're an innocent, passive party. And the abuser, is the one who has initiated the aggression. The abuser has aggressed upon you. And by engaging in a counter smear campaign, you are engaging in self-defense. That's it. Self-defense is ethical and moral. Because remember, you're not starting this. They are. They are initiating the aggression. Therefore, it is absolutely moral and ethical for you to stand up for yourself. And also, I'm not saying do not make up lies about the abuser, because that will just blow up in your face. And in fact, that is a really dumb move, is that anytime an abuser starts a smear campaign based on total lies, it's going to blow up in their face most of the time. So I'm not saying, I do not think that you should make up any lies. And in fact, all you want to do is cast a shadow of a doubt over Tina's character, over the abuser's moral compass. The truth is that this person is slandering you. This person is making up lies about you. This person is a bad person. Therefore, you're not lying. You are telling the truth when you're telling your coworker, Tina is not a good person. I'm worried about her mental health because, sorry, healthy people don't slander other people. They're not out telling lies. They're not trying to hurt people. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that about Tina. Okay, now I'm going to go on to another tactic that you can use when Susan is approaching you and asking you if it's true that you take office supplies, is that when you start the counter smear campaign against the abuser and you're saying, this Tina is not nice. Well, a psychological tip that you can use is that you will make up a rhyme using the abuser's name. For example, you'll say, let's say her name is Tina Green, who is doing the smear campaign against you. You'll say, Tina Green is mean. Or let's say her name is Tina Pace. You'll say, Miss Pace is a liar face. And you'll say it over and over again because rhymes stick in people's minds. It will solidify in that person's consciousness, and there's a great chance they will start saying it over and over. They might repeat it to someone else. It's just a strategy that you could do. Really, the goal is to create a shadow of doubt over the abuser. So we don't just have to take it and ignore it. I think the key is to be flexible and to weigh your options and take a moment and figure out, what can I do? What is realistic? Remember, every target is different. Every abuser is different. Every situation is different. How you handle a smear campaign against you in a family situation compared to a work environment will be completely different. And that's why I think that this black and white way of thinking, that you have to ignore it, there's nothing you can do, is a very limited way of viewing the situation. And being slandered is terrible, terrible. It is within your right to stand up for yourself and to engage in self-defense. That's it. As always, stay strong and get toxic people out of your life. Bye. let's say Susan walks up to the target and says, hey, you know what? Tina is running around the office telling everyone that you steal office supplies. She is telling everyone that you are going into the office supply room and taking tons of stuff home. Oh my gosh, is that true? What's going on? The problem is that when someone does approach you about the lies that are being told, you then have to address it. In a lot of those situations, you can't just ignore it. Because even if you say, oh, that's not true, or, you know what, I don't even want to justify that with a response, you're still engaging in this conversation. And I'll explain why. Because, well, if you say, oh my gosh, I'm innocent, I've never taken anything from the office supply room, oh my gosh, this is not true, I don't steal, I don't do that. Well, what's going to happen is now Susan is going to visualize you in the office supply room stealing stuff. And when someone is telling lies about you, the worst thing a target can do is allow the abuser to define the narrative. The worst thing to do is to allow the abuser to define the engagement. I want to present a couple of ideas in case you're curious, in case you're wondering, well, what are my options if someone starts telling lies about me? All situations are different. All abusers are different. All targets are different.